It's Oklahoma Archery. Everything archery based out of Oklahoma for Oklahomans. Let's get it started. Hello, everybody. I'm David Bosca, and welcome to another Oklahoma Archery podcast.
I'm Neil Cooley, and y'all, today we got Dane Johnson with us. He was the first person to ever win the pro division out to 60 yards. So we wanted to bring him on and kind of recap a little bit of history. How you doing, Dane?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
We're doing real good. Thanks for taking the time to be a part of this podcast.
So, Dane, you had a
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Tell everyone.
My computer.
Yeah, it sounds like you got a lag going on. We'll just be slow asking questions and just let you answer. Tell everyone where you at and what you shoot.
Sorry,
This is gonna be fun.
I'm from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I shoot for Mathews. I also shoot for Two-Ball Excel, Hamsky, Kafaru, Precision Cut. I'm super thankful to have a lot of these sponsors that support me in this crazy world of shooting professionally. So,
How long have you been pro?
I've been shooting pro for I think I had my first pro contract at I think it was either 16 or 17. So I've been shooting for almost 8 years now. Or actually, I think I've been shooting since I was 15, like in the pro class. Or competitively since I was 15, like really serious into it. So almost 10 years, 10 years now. So
There you go. Now, traditionally, would you consider yourself to be a 3D guy?
yeah, I would like to say I'm a 3D guy over indoor, but thankfully I had a pretty good indoor season this year, and with third at Rushmore Rumble, that one was a pretty good like confidence booster as far as going into the 3D season, and so getting third at Rushmore really helped elevate my mental game, especially because I felt in the past, I've always made all these shoot offs and never really did good in those indoor shoot offs. And to finally be able to get at least a podium at the Rushmore Rumble, I felt like it just helped me mentally, especially going into the outdoor season. It really elevated my game to mentally be there and just do well.
Was it something that you were trying to trust the bow or trust your shot or a little bit of both?
It wasn't really trusting the bow because like the bow does its job. My equipment does its job. Everything does its job. It's more of a not having faith in myself. And there was a time where I at a point where I thought about hanging it up, like last year, because I've gotten so close so many times that it just felt like it wasn't going to happen. And I was talking to the wife, and she was like, just stay after it. You're so close, and I talked to my family, my mom and dad about it, and they both said the same thing as far as just staying after it, staying at it. I've been so close. It's gonna happen. And I've had a couple buddies even tell me that as well. And to have the Rushmore Rumble placing third is what I needed. I needed that third place to kind of help me to give myself confidence in myself to tell me, hey, I can still do this, because at that shoot we had all the big guys there. You had Brody, you had Matthias, and we had Schlozer, and short, just everybody was there. and to be able to still, I consider myself as a 3D guy and still being able to place third was such a, it was kind of a huge accomplishment on my part.
It was incredible to watch. I mean, we pulled up and had the live stream going in the living room on the big screen, and you never know how long it's going to go, and just kept hitting and hitting and hitting, and it's like, man, we might have to order a pizza or something like that. I don't think these guys. So,
I almost ordered pizza when I was shooting. I won't lie. It just kept going, and it blew my mind, honestly.
well, it was incredible to watch. Did it around what end? I mean, I know you've been in high leverage situations like this. When do the nerves calm down, or do they ever calm down?
Honestly, that was one of these shoot-offs that like I went into that shoot-off with such a different mental game of like I can shoot, I can do these shoot-offs, I can compete with these guys, and it's like practicing at home, And literally the whole entire time I was telling myself, I can shoot. It's like practicing at home. I can do this. I can hit this X just over and over and over, and it was just embedded into my brain. And honestly, you got you a little bit of nerves in the first few ends, but after that, it just kind of was smooth sailing. And honestly, even the shot that I missed, I wasn't even nervous. It just went off there, and it happens. That's archery, So it's like it is what it is. Yeah, I wanted to win bad, but it just didn't happen for me that weekend.
Pretty stiff competition, and also having to juggle since they've moved back Vegas. Our indoor and our 3D season overlaps a little bit. Are you running one bow for everything, or do you have one for each discipline?
Well, what's funny is I actually have three bows. I had three Title 38 Gen 2s at the house, and I actually ended up just running one. Oops, sorry. My dog's going crazy. But um, I ended up running one setup for all the events. So I ran the same bow that I ran for indoors to the 3D. And what's funny is I had my travel partner, and my buddy, he was at the house the day before we left to go to for Foley. And I was shooting my 3D bow that I had set up, and it was just not feeling the way I thought it should. I wasn't shooting the way I had it, and to be honest, I haven't had much time behind it as I did with the indoor bow. And I told him, I said, I'm just going to take the indoor bow, put the 23s on, set it up, tune it, and that's what's nice about the title is it's so easy to tune. Like it's ridiculously easy to tune, and I had it like one shot. It was a bolt hole with 23s, super dry 23s, and I ran that setup that Foley, and it performed way better than I thought it would.
So what arrow configuration are you running, and did it change from last year being in the 50-yard class to moving back 10 yards? Did you always shoot 23s, or did you shrink down a size for the extra yard?
I actually shot 27s like the past a lot of years. Actually, I shot 27s for 27 at like 288 feet per second um, for the longest time. And so then I went down to the 23s, especially for Foley, because it's always known for how windy it is. And I actually had a buddy tell me, he goes, dude, I feel like, or he felt like he always had more forgiveness out of the 23s and never really had a problem with just being out all the time. And so I took his word for it and ran the 23s, and I'm super glad I did because there was a couple guys that were dealing with drift problems, and honestly, I never really. Yeah, I had a couple shots that I felt like should have been there, and it was just right or left, but it wasn't as drastic as a lot of these guys had to deal with. And my arrow setup this year were Super Drive 23s with 3 Fletch 2.25s, tack vanes, drivers, and then 120 grain competition archery point, the 3D ballistic, so it's the black version, cut down to I think like 30.5 inches, and it's super short. It's all the way to the rest to the blade, and I'm actually going to be running a different setup, not a different setup, but a different arrow configuration down in Fort Benning. I got the overdraw from Hamsky, so I'm able to bring my rest all the way back, and so I can cut the arrow down shorter. And the idea behind it is the shorter the arrow, the straighter it is. So if I can get a shorter arrow with a shorter, straighter arrow, then you know it theoretically should be better and more forgiving.
We saw a post you put up, and I tried to go back and find it. It was about a week or so ago of different sight tapes. And I think you were you playing with a 3 Fletch versus a 4 Fletch, talking about the extra drag. And it was like the same weight and the same speed arrow, but your sight tapes were different.
Yeah, that was actually a post I reposted from Precision Cut Archery. And what's awesome about Precision Cut Archery is he really gets the actual data from the arrow. And so, there's a lot that you have to do to really get that. I mean, not a lot, but if you have the tools to do it, then why not use it? And so there's a difference between the actual, like the arrow drag, because you can have the same exact arrow, same exact weight, but it's a total different drag between the 4 Fletch and 3 Fletch. And so it actually records that data, and it'll print out your sight tape exactly to that arrow setup.
And where is this located? Where can we send people to go look at that and read on it?
PrecisionCutArchery.com.
Okay.
It's a subscription. It's like Archer's Advantage, honestly. And I used Archery Advantage for a while, and then I kind of went away with it, and I just used the sight tape that you can get from Lancaster, I Gunstar sight tape, and I used to just do the 20 and 60 and go, and that'd be my sight tape. But I actually used and I used the precision cut a lot, especially for hunting, because it's I'm shooting farther distance, and I'm shooting out to 100+ yards. Like actually, I had a bow sighted in all the way out to 143 yards, and I'm actually working on a setup to shoot at 150 yards this year with a hunting bow, which I'm kind of excited to do with a Litdex 33 build. So that's going to be pretty exciting to do. I'm hoping to do YouTube over that, and put it on my Hooter shooter and do some crazy testing with that. I'm excited to get that going because I'm going to do a bunch of arrow configuration, and I'm actually going to do like 80, 70, 60 pounds, and I'm going to do all the math behind it of like your kinetic energy and all that. And then as far as like what spine I should be shooting, because like with the 80s, I'm gonna have to do 200 spine, Easton 5.0s. 70 is going to be like 250, and I'm gonna try the 250 spine with the 80 pounds and see if I can make it work. Because the Easton 5.0s are actually, they have the recommended spine, but you can actually, on depending on your specs, you can actually go a little bit to the weaker spine and still be stiff enough. So the Easton 5.0s are actually a lot stiffer than any of the arrow on the market that I know of. Like I had a buddy, he was shooting 70 pounds, and he used to shoot 350 spines, and he had some 400s, and he put a broadhead on that thing, and it was hitting arrow for arrow between field point and broadhead with AAE vanes. And so that's honestly quite impressive for going to a weaker spine and still being able to get or hit the exact same spot and do it what you want it to do.
A lot of it goes into it. The one common denominator I've found for being able to actually test different spines and point weights is being able to break a clean shot. So that's going to be a big part of it too.
Yeah. And that's why I'm super excited to actually do it in the Hooter shooter, because it eliminates every variable there is. It eliminates every human variable, and I'll actually give the people true data of what the bow likes, because with human error, you never know. You can never 100% know if it truly likes a certain arrow combination or how it tunes, because sometimes I've had especially on the 3D side, I've had a bow where sometimes it likes a absolute perfect bullet hole, and that's how I ran it at Foley. Actually, it was a perfect bullet hole, and that's how I ran it. But I've had a bow where it just wanted to group tune, and the paper tune was absolutely terrible. I mean, there was a tear like this off from a bullet hole. It's just all depending on what the bow likes, because every bow, whether people like to hear this or not, but every bow is freaking different. No bow is the same on the how it wants to fly. I can have one arrow and shoot between 3 different bows, and it all be way different on how it likes to shoot and group, and trying to get the forgiveness out of it.
Do you use your Hooter shooter on your 3D bow as well?
I didn't have enough time because I actually work at Bass and Bucks, and I drive 3 hours so I drive an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back. So I've been so busy with working. Work has been crazy, trying to work with the Midwest Trail shoot, and then as well as trying to do your normal job, and then also trying to get the bow set up. So I didn't have enough time to actually get to the bow set up and do the Hooter shooter and check and see if my arrows hit the exact same spot on that. But I didn't really have to, because my bow shot phenomenal on Foley. It did way better. It exceeded my expectation.
I'm glad you mentioned Bassett and Bucks. That is where they have my absolute favorite archery tournament I've ever been to. Are you planning on shooting the Wabash Bash, the Trail Classic this year?
So I actually am working the actual tournament. So I'm doing a bunch of like the marketing side for them, and I don't know if I'll be able to shoot it this year, because the numbers we are going to be trying to hit, it's just going to be too many people, and just not enough guys behind the scenes to actually be able to, for me to be able to be comfortable to shoot it. There's going to be a lot of content that I'll need to be able to do and create for next year.
Well, you did say you have a bow, the hunting bow that you were shooting 140. Are you going to go out to California and shoot their big redding shoot?
The only thing that struggles with me about the redding shoes is how expensive, and I try to stay away from California as much as I can. I just don't like California prices, honestly. I mean, Vegas was rough as is, because I went to dinner one night with a buddy, and I spent $90 for 3 little sushi rolls. I mean, they were size of my stabilizer weight, and it was just crazy. I couldn't believe it.
Well, before we roll on into the ASA and talk about that great win, let's back up to the Vegas shoot and everything. You had a good one going. You had one arrow, just one.
One arrow,
yeah.
It cost me. Yeah, and honestly, I said it in my post that I have no idea what happened, and I still don't know. And that's part of archery, honestly. And it's that's where like the mental game, as far as like a lot of people struggle, is they get so in their head when they can't figure out or understand why an arrow landed in a certain spot that they didn't feel like they executed on. And people struggle, and they get so in their head. It's like sometimes, and I told people this too. Sometimes you just got to be a goldfish. You got to have a short-term memory loss, to where it's not archery is 90% here, you know. The 10% your body knows what it needs to do and what it should do 10% of the time. 90% of it is mental. Whether you have a good head on your shoulder to forget the bad shots and just move on and try to execute the best shot the next time. So, and I made the Vegas shoot off, I think 3 or 4 times in a row, and yeah, it sucks, but unfortunately, that's archery for you, you know. And I had a really good season this year for indoor. I think other than Vegas, I think I had one that was outside of top 10, and that was Lancaster at 11th place. I still placed 11th, but I pretty much had a top 10 finish at almost all of them, all the indoor shoots, and I'm pretty proud of that. Before I felt like I struggled on the indoor game, and I would make the shoot off, but it would go nowhere. I get out in the next 1 or 2 ends, and this year I really worked on that, and I was pretty proud to say, I've made pretty much, other than Lancaster and Vegas, I've made up top 10 on every one of them.
I know you've got to be, people have to be looking at you like, look at the indoor and then look at Foley. Like, look at the guys that are shooting all winter. And being the state ASA director, people are like, why do you always invite people? Why are you always trying to do indoor? It's like, because you got to get right. Once you get your deer killed in October, November, it's, you got 3 months of sitting there. Is the bow right? You got to put it together. You got to figure out how much push and pull it likes. You got to figure your shot back out, because you're sitting in a tree stand for 2 or 3 months waiting on 1 deer, maybe 2 deer to come by that you know about. And it's like, okay, how do I stand on flat ground and shoot my bow again? Let's figure it back out, roll it back to basics. And I love seeing when the guys that are, might be considered 3D guys are putting up monster indoor scores. And it's not that it's, 20 yards is easy. It's just that it forces you to reevaluate your mental game. And
exactly. And if you can, and the way I look at it is, if you can if you can excel well in the indoor game, that's going to carry out a lot easier to the outdoor game than it is, it's going to excel a lot easier to carry from a good indoor game, being able to shoot indoors good, to the outdoor than it is from outdoors to indoors. I mean, that's going to hurt a lot of feelings, me saying that. And I'm not saying 3D shooters aren't spot shooters. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if you can excel well in the indoor game, then you're going to excel well in the outdoor game, especially 3D, in the gnome game, because it's you don't have an orange sticker on the 12 ring or anything, but yeah, honestly, if you learn the targets well and you manage the course as far as all the arrows are in the target, then you can excel very good in the 3D world. If you're a target shooter.
Use a personal example. I shot better at Foley than I have ever at any pro-am this year. And out of 5 targets under 30 yards, I missed every one of them. I shot 4 10s and an 8 under 30 yards. And I hit everything that was farther. And it's like, needed more indoor. Got to have it.
Yeah. Well, and that's a lot of things that people struggle. And that's the perfect example of like the mental side, because as soon as you see the 30-yard target, you're in your mind, you gotta hit it. You have to hit it. Well, and it should be flipped. It should be like, oh, it's a 30-yard target, I'm gonna smash this. Like I'm gonna smoke it. And then because you don't have the mental side of like on the 50-yard target where you're like, oh, it's 50 yards, I'm just gonna hover there and hope for the best. yeah, that works, and you do great. But in the mental side of it, you should be thinking of the same way every single time. And that's where, like I said, the me getting third at Russell Rumble really accelerated my mental game for the outdoor because it carried over as far as the shorter targets. You didn't have that like anxiety of, oh my gosh, it's 30 yards, I have to hit this. And even the 30, and what I'm super thankful about Foley is like everything just went well for me. Like everything that I planned, like my plan A went, it worked. You know, I didn't have to have a plan B or C. And, I hit everything that I needed and then some more on the longer targets. And that's what you have to nowadays. You have to hit every single one of them and be on your A game because your B game is going to get you second or third or just out of the shoot off, and then don't even get me started with the C plan will get you, you know, your C plan is just top 10 maybe. And, whether people like it or not, I, I love the competition that we have. A lot of people are like, it especially when it was at 50 yards, a lot of people were like, I hate that the 60 up is where you have to be. I love it. It shows you the true like precision of how you have like how precise you have to be and how much on an A game you have to be every single tournament, because at 50 yards, you had to be at least 50 up almost every tournament. The only tournament it was probably London because it's dark. I mean, heck, Jimmy Lutz shot. I shot with Jimmy Lutz on the second day at London, and he was just barely touching every single line. He just got lucky and he hit him. And that's how the game goes. A lot, you gotta have some luck too. And if the luck is on your side, you're gonna have a great weekend.
We call it getting sticky. I mean, you might give
Yeah,
somebody 2 inches of variance and they'd have hit 10 more rings instead of being just out of them.
yeah. Like literally, I was looking through the binos with Jimmy, and I look, and I'm like, I think it's just out to go up, and it was just clearly in. Like he just by a hair, he was just in. And it's like he he shot great. He hit them. He just kept caught them. So what can you do?
So
There's
here,
nothing else you can do.
so here at Foley at this last one, day one, you come out striping, you come out the lead. You was talking about you had game plan A, game plan B. Going into the second day, did you morph or change your game plan, or did you just step it up a game? I mean, you can
I,
always maintain, but did you do anything different?
Honestly, no, because the plan I had it worked. And honestly, it's funny that you mentioned that because when after the first day, when I uh, found out that I was in the lead, it kind of messed with me mentally because I kept thinking because of the 24 up, I kept thinking of the 50-yard scores. I was thinking, oh, you got to be 30 up to even be up there in the top. So it kind of messed with me mentally because after the round I went to a couple buddies and they're like, how'd you shoot? And I would be like, 24 up, and they're like, oh my gosh, you shot great for this course. And I'm like, I don't feel like it because I'm thinking 50 yards. I'm not thinking
Wow.
60 yards. Because and that's the mindset that I was having of, I'm trying to shoot 30 up every single round, and that's how I feel like I have to shoot. And no, whether I was in the lead or not, I still mentally felt like I should be shooting 30 up. So, and when I learned or found out that I was in the lead, yeah, it was such a relief. It was nice to have that 4 point cushion, or was it? Yeah, I was 24 up. Having a 4 point cushion, it was nice to have. But mentally, I was on a different level as far as you know where I was in the mind space of needing to be at 30 up. And honestly, going on to the second day, I was the same way. I mentally I needed to be 30 up, and and going into the shoot off with a 6 point lead. With these guys, you can't get comfortable with a 6 point lead. You got to stay on your toes. I mean, Jimmy shot freaking amazing in that shoot off. And what's scary is he saw all of the rings. He saw all of the rings in the shoot off. And I couldn't see anything. It was tough to see in that arena. And um like I couldn't see any of the rings. The only thing I really saw was the bedded buck because of excuse me, because it was at a distance where again I ran a smaller scope housing, and it was at a distance where I could kind of see all of the curvature of the target. And so I was able to see a little bit of where I needed to be. But on the closer one where my housing just covered the whole target, really struggled on those. And I shot an 8 on a 42-yard target. And that kind of, bummed me up a little bit or bummed me out because it was like 42 yards. I should at least hit a 10, and to shoot an 8 because honestly, when I shot, I thought I broke a great shot. Like I thought I center punched a 10, and then when I found out it was just out for an 8, it was like whoa, like I really, and especially on that last arrow, on that boar, or Russian boar or whatever target that is. But I was like literally I went off the target, like I was aiming at the back wall almost on the ground to go off of the leg and go up and fire it because I could not see any sort of rings. I couldn't even see really the core line. It was a struggle, and I'm super thankful I was able to come away with a win. But and that's the other thing is that kind of going back to about my setup is that I changed is I'm going to a 41 6 power. I want to bring in more light and see more because you have to in this. You can't. Oh, I can't see this target, so I'm gonna play it safe. No, you got to make sure you can see every ring because if not, these other guys will.
So big scope, 6 power. What pin size and clarifier are you running?
10,000, and I'm actually not running a clarifier. Thankfully, I have good enough eyes to where I can see it absolutely crystal clear. And that's what I love about the clear target that I run. That's another sponsor that I picked up this year. It was Clear Target. And what's super awesome about him is every single lens that you get on the curvature, they're all I can't remember the word. It's optical centers or something like that. Yeah, yeah. They're all the curvature are centered every single time. And so you can pick up a 6 power and a 5 power, and you can slap them in and not have to move your sight because it changes your sight pictures. Every single one of them are centered with the curvature are centered to the center of that the lens. So any lens you throw in, they're centered, and that's what's nice about like the he has the star. Um, I can't remember. I'm having a brain fart, but he has where the dot's already on it. You can switch out your colored dot, from a black to orange or green. You can switch them out, and you'll hit the same spot every single time.
I always tell people to go see Doc and have their lenses checked because they're like, yeah, I took it apart and put it back in, and I'm hitting 4 inches to the right. I'm like, there's no way it's centered. Go to the guy that's an optometrist. They made a career out of getting exactly where that glass bubbles, and he put them on that little laser and puts you a dot on there, and you look at it, and it's just a skosh off to the side. But at 40, 50, 60 yards, a skosh is quite a bit.
Yeah, well, it's like a rifle. You got your 100 yards where that's your standard MOA. Well, archery, 50 yards is kind of your MOA. For me, I treat 50 yards as the MOA. if you can be within a half inch and and move your stuff around and be within a half inch at 20 yards, that's stupid forgiving to shoot.
Kind of release are you shooting? Hinge or a button?
So it's kind of funny you mentioned that because at the beginning of the season, I was shooting a hinge, a HBC flex, and that was like my go-to release for years. I mean, 5, 6 years, ever since the HBC came out, that was my go-to release. And I had a buddy. He was like, "Dude, you need to try out a thumb because all these guys that are shooting, they're all either a thumb button or no, with Jimmy shooting the wrist strap. He goes, they're all trigger release guys. And so I went to the True Ball booth and I picked up a True Ball Trident and I shot it. I originally got it because I wanted to have it as a backup for if it was a windy day or something like that, and I can just grab it and I can use it. Well, I went to the practice range and it just my bow just held so good. I was firing it. My timing was amazing, and I told my buddy I was like, dude, I might shoot this for good, and I shot it amazing for Foley. And I think for me, for indoors, I think I'm gonna stick with to my hinge because it's my comfort. I know I've shot the HBC for so long indoors. I know how to execute or what I need to do under certain situations, under pressure situation that I haven't been able to excel at or to do well with thumb. And it showed in Vegas. I mean, with my miss. Um, that is just something I didn't do in a certain way that I normally do with a hinge. That would help me or give me that more forgiveness with a hinge than I would have with a hinge. Sorry. Um, but I think for 3D, I am definitely sticking to a. I think I'm definitely sticking to a thumb button. I just have so much more control and I execute it so much better. And not only that, but my mental game is a lot better on a 3D course.
How light or how heavy do you set your thumb button?
Well, compared to a lot of these guys, I have it set to where it takes you days. Um, and honestly, I don't really care for a super hot release, only because I want to be able to have, like, I want to be able to touch the release and still execute with it than barely touching the release and it goes off. Like I want to be able to touch the release and execute my shot than me being scared of touching that trigger to because if like I've shot thumb releases before where it was stupid light, like scary light. I'll get back there and if any sort of pressure situation if I'm shaking mentally, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to wait until this settles down, or until it gets there, and I'll whack it. With the having it set just it's not to me, it's not stupid cold, like it's not super cold or super heavy, like it's like you got to add a little bit of pressure, but it's not like it takes me forever to execute. You know what I mean? So. Um, I have it set to where I put a little bit like you can feel it on your skin and it'll indent your skin in a little bit and that it'll fire. And I kind of like it that way because and I also go back and forth as far as executing a surprise shot and a command shot. Um, that would mess with a lot of people, but I've been able to kind of pull that off. Um, and I've been able to and I did it well in Foley, to where I know the pressure amount every single time of what I have to before it hits to that breaking point of firing, and I do it every single time. And there's some like on a 60-yard target where it holds good, but it's just not wanting to fire. Okay, and then I'll probably let down, and then I'll tell myself, okay, if it holds good, then I'll command shoot it. And so I'll get back there and it's holding good and I'll command it. and then I'll break a good shot. And then there's sometimes where it just hold around the 12 and it'll just go off. It just kind of each shot is so different for me that that I just like last minute I just figure it out when I get to the stake what kind of shot it's gonna be.
How confident are you? How's the bow holding? How are the shots breaking? And it's like Joe Dirt says, you can't have no in your heart. It's got to get in there. It's got to settle, and you just got to go, yep, 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 boom. And
Exactly.
I'm not able to punch. I did it a couple of times, and it takes about 4 shots for me to not be able to aim as well. And so I got a real short fuse for when I make bad habits. And
Yeah.
you just got to tell yourself, like, let it float and let muscle memory kind of take over. And a good execution, if you're staring at that spot, is going to do better for you because you're going to get that split second correction. It's going to find that, and it's a trust thing. You got it's like doing a
Yeah.
trust ball with your bow every single arrow, and
Yeah.
it just sometimes it's working for you, and sometimes you're white knuckling it, and it's just not. It's like, okay, this ain't it today. A little less push, a little less pull. I was told by somebody to relax your hands once you get it full draw because you're just tightening up, just trying to just go, oh my God,
Yeah.
like that. It's like, man,
Yeah. And that's where a lot of people struggle is they think you need to tense up more. No, you need to relax more because when you tense up, that's when everything freezes in your body. And I actually my father is a chiropractor, and so he knows all of like your body structure and how your body should actually be with a bow. How you should hold it and like your muscles and how you should hold it and stuff like that. And he's he's really helped me explain, okay, your body physically can't do it that way. Like your body does this way, or no, it does a certain thing this way the best, the easiest, the most how a body should do. And so he's helped me a lot as far as explaining to me why you should or why I should do a certain way, you know, why I should
football.
do a certain thing a certain way. And so, and that's why I'm super thankful is like he's be able to explain to me everything detail by detail and go on from that way.
Does your dad shoot as well?
He used to. We used to compete all the time against each other at home, and we still do. Um, he's been so busy with his work that he hasn't been able to he hasn't been able to shoot as much as you would like to. But he'll get back into it for sure.
It's hard when you can't dedicate the time that as a high level pro what it takes and the hours and the arrow count that it takes to succeed at a high level. And when you just can't dedicate that to it, it's kind of tricky.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing too is like for him it was just about being with me and just shooting with me and all that. But it's nice because he's actually a really really good shooter. Like when he was shooting all the time with me, like he was shooting really really good. Um, and it sucks to see him that he had to put it up, but um, but he'll get back into it for sure. I'm hoping within the next year or two he can be able to actually shoot with me and go to these shoots with me.
You mentioned your travel buddy. Who you go to hit the big shoots with?
Cole Raffensberger. He's actually based out of like the Missouri area, and he works with me at Bass and Bucks, and he's a super awesome guy. I freaking love him. He's my best friend. So we travel to all these shoots this year, or we travel to all the shoots, and it's kind of it's kind of fun to have a buddy that's close by you, that you get to go travel to all these shoots, and you experience all the highs and all the lows. And what's funny is actually Foley was our first shoot traveling together, and and he was such on a he was kind of on a high a little bit because the first shoot we go to, I went Foley, and he was like, and then I told him, I was like, you're not allowed to travel with anybody else. Like I might have to give you a cut to go to this shoot. And I almost dragged him with me to Vegas, um, but it didn't happen. But yeah, we have a little funny joke that he has to come to every shoot whether he's sick or not. He could be rolling over his grave, and I'll take him with me.
A small price to pay will be an entry fee for him.
Yep, exactly.
So
Exactly.
what's your tournament routine like? If you got your travel buddy locked in, is there stuff you do that works, or just kind of however you're feeling?
What's funny is, sorry, got my daughter here. Can you say hi? Say hi. All right, go back to mama. Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, no. Welcome.
Future champions.
But what's funny is our routine, honestly, was so there's a game called Call of Duty Mobile, and after we practice and all that, we would go back to the hotel and replay Call of Duty back at the hotel, and that's kind of something that I do to kind of take my mind off of archery because there's only so much you can focus about archery mentally because and that's something that I have to do because I can't focus on archery and be archery 24/7. You got to have something else to do to take your mind off of the sport, and I think it's healthy to do that as well because um, if you're one of, and I'm not saying you can't be this guy, but if you're one of those guys that are archery 24, archery's my life 24/7. Um, you're gonna get burnt out so fast, so quick that you're gonna end up hating the sport. And I'll be honest, there's been so many times that where I necessarily didn't hate the sport, but I didn't want to even think about archery at all. Like I just it wasn't fun. It wasn't enjoyable, and it messed with me mentally for a long time.
That's a rough life to put on a face and to go shoot.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is as a professional, I have to be professionally presentable at these shoots 24/7. Like I can't be out here doing all this crazy stuff that a normal Joe Smo, does. Especially when I go out have to go when I go out to dinner. I have to be on my A game because there's going to be guys that know me even when I wear normal attire or normal clothes. These guys know me on a professional level, and I have to be on a professional standpoint 24/7 when I'm out in public. Um, I don't mind that at all. I honestly don't. I kind of, if people want to come up and say hi or get a picture or whatever, by all means, I don't care. I honestly don't. I've always been the type of guy that, as a kid, I know what it felt like to see, when I grew up, it was Levi, Morgan, and, Jesse Broadwater. Those are the type of people I looked up to. And Rhea Wall. Those are the type of people I looked up to. And, if I saw them at dinner, I wish I could go up and meet them, just say hi, just take a quick picture or something, and I don't want that for the younger generation. I want the younger generation to know that at any time you see me in public outside of archery tournament, you are more than welcome to I'll be more than happy to meet you or meet them and say hi and talk to them for a little bit. Like it doesn't really bother me much because at the end of the day, me going back to the hotel and doing what with my buddy, doing whatever we want to do back at the hotel, playing video games or whatever. That's that's how I, relieve and go back to myself. Um, you know, And being a I say being a professional is tough, but when in reality there's a lot worse situations that we could all be in. But I'm just, as far as just archery standpoint, being a professional is tough a lot of times because you can't. It's not that you can't be yourself, which I try to be myself 95% of the time, but you got to put on a certain persona because there's also certain people out there that have a certain image of you and on how they should act, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
and let's be real, your sponsors are needing and wanting that image, that
uh,
portrayal, and they're paying for that.
yeah, there, no, the sponsors pay me to put on a certain professionalism to at 24/7 when I'm at shoots, when I'm out in public. Like they pay me to be professional, you know, and that's part of the job,
Yeah, let's
you
be
know.
real. If you go to a 3D shoot on the ASA circuit and Dane Johnson's hooting and hollering over there with some vodka, you may not have that
Oh,
sponsorship 24 hours later.
well, no, yeah, exactly. No, and that's the thing is like, you know, even if we have a bad, and what's so tough about, I talk about the mental side, and what's tough about, being a professional as well is when you do have a bad day, like to us, having a bad day is like shooting 14 up sometimes, where even like on an easy course, and we still have to be professional. And when you ask us like, "Hey, how'd you shoot?" And we're like, not," and we say 14 up, you're like, "Oh, you're being dumb." No, you know what I mean? Like we're professionals. We are supposed to be shooting at a high level 24/7, or not 24/7, but at every single tournament. We are paid to shoot exceptionally well at every tournament, and what a lot of these, no amateurs or the normal people that shoot, they don't understand that we are held to a higher standard because our job is on the line at every single tournament. And and I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that's just how it is.
Yeah, you're not
Like,
complaining about it. You're accepting it.
yeah, I'm accepting it. I don't get me wrong, I love this job. I hope I can do it until the day I die, you know. But the truth is, it's just the truth of the matter is that this is just how it is, and I want, and me talking about it, it's just me explaining to it on how we have to be, as a professional.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining that I have to do this. I'm just saying that's how it is.
It makes it hard when it sometimes can make you feel like you're not allowed to have a bad day shooting your bow. It's like everything has to be sunshine and roses. It's like, well, the bow's going to do its job 100% of the time, and
Exactly.
sometimes
And
the guy holding it was at 80% or 90%, and it takes every bit of it in an ultra competitive division, and
yep.
you don't know how to say that to people. It's like, well, I aimed well, but I didn't execute well, or I aimed, it just, that's where the arrow went, and you got to be
Yeah.
able tell them that, like, yeah, you ain't gonna see me in the shoot off this time. It was another nickel Neal kind of day.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's hard to reconcile the ego with the results is what
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
it's absolutely, I would assume it's very difficult to come off a range, want to go to a practice range and clean that face and stand there and shoot beside someone while they're asking all this and you're trying to work, because in your mind I'm working out the demons in my bow hand and my release hand. I'm working out, trying to learn what is changed in this and that, but keeping that sponsorship slash professional attitude.
Exactly, and that's another thing too. It's like all these amateurs, and that's why I say come out to me 20. Like when I say, if you are wanting to meet me or you want to get a signature from me, like come out to me 24/7. Like I don't care at dinner. I You can come because like you're not going to be able to. Sometimes you're not going to be able to get a hold of me when I am practicing because now, thankfully, we have a pro practice range. Like that, I think it's the pros, us pros need that because we need to be able to go to the course, our pro practice course, and be able to work out what we need to work out because it got overcrowded on the practice range, the 3D practice range, and even the bats. It gets way too overcrowded and it's hard for us to work what we need to work on when again I'm not complaining but when we got amateurs or other people trying to talk to us 24/7, like I said, I'm not complaining, it's how it is, but there's another side of it is this is our job and we need to do this.
I think with the cost of entry fees, knowing of those extra costs, let's be real, that's what it is. I think having a practice range is an extremely great idea and something that ASA has implemented. I think it's a good deal.
Yeah, well, and that's people are complaining about, oh well, then you pull away the pros from the amateurs. Well, that's why we have team shoots. That's why we have. That's why these events have meet the pros, team shoots, all of these stuff, and so you can actually go meet your favorite pro. Like that's the perfect time to go meet your pro. Like, I'm not saying you can't go meet them other times. But I'm just saying, if you really want to meet them, that's the exact perfect time
That and go
to
talk to
go
them at
do
the
that.
booth. If they're at the booth, that's what it's for also.
Exactly. Like we get in trouble if we're not at the booth. So yeah, if there will be a day we will be at the booth to work. So come meet us. We want you to come meet us at that time. That's the most perfect time to meet us because a lot of times we're just sitting there and we're just talking to our buddies at that point. We want you to come meet us when we're there. You know, like just because we're at the booth doesn't mean yes, we're working, but we're not doing anything really there. We're just doing our due diligence as professionals to talk to you guys. You know,
And with a hot dog and a Coke, you'll get a little bit more information out of you.
exactly. $20 is $20. So go ahead.
It's
But
always good. It's always good when you have such a concentrated group of pros in one place because you could be tuning stabilizers, scope size, rest, timing, anything. And, they probably shoot for Mathews. They also shoot for Hamsky. They also shoot for, if it's Tim Gillingham, you got arrows, you got stabilizers, you got bows. It's a little bit of everything. And I guarantee you the pros have been through it many times. They know where you're at in your archery journey. It's like, well, how much correction are you getting on that drop away rest? Let's check, but go back to cam timing. Let's go back to move your loop up. Let's go back to any of these little things. And that probably it's going to get you through the weekend. It's going to give you something to go tinker with, move your 20, get back on, redial it, make sure your tape's good, and go out there. It means more when you get a pro that's like, this is what you need to do. Like I went to Coleman last year and Chris Hacker got me to run my back bar off the front. I hadn't done that since 1997. It'd been a long time since I'd ever done that. And the bow shot pretty good. It got me through a couple rounds. It didn't end up sticking, but it was like, well, yeah, that's how Chris got this bow to shoot. So maybe it'll work for me. It didn't,
yeah,
but I got to try it. And when you hear it from a pro, it's like, dude, they've been there, they've tried it, they've tested every little nuance and corner of that equipment. So you gain confidence from their experience.
it's exactly. And going back to about the entry fees and all of that, which like our entry fee for Vegas, I had to pay $650. Ooh. Like, and people are like, oh, but you get paid from Mathews to do that. But that's still coming out of my paycheck. Mathews, yeah, they pay me, but they don't also pay for the entry fee. Like, I have to cover entry fee, food, gas, all of that. I still have to cover. And so, yeah, me caring about trying to at least get my paycheck back or get my entry fee back means a lot to me because I still have a family to feed. I mean, you saw my daughter, I have her to take care of. I have a dog who goes through a bag almost every 2 weeks. I have a mortgage to pay for. I have a car. I have things to pay for as well. So yeah, the entry fee does matter to me on whether or not we have a pro practice range, because we pay a lot of money to go to these shoots and compete. So having a pro practice range, yes, it was a necessity that we have to have.
Okay, looking at it that way, a great way to, let's say, I'm not going to say justify, but a great way to look at it, Dane, is your business. Your shooting is a business. There's pluses and minuses. Mathews or whomever puts pluses into your accounting. You take the negatives away and have to go pay for everything. Now, at the end of the year, what's left, Dane gets to use for the family, or at the end of the month, or whatever. That is now your profit. Now,
Exactly.
if you don't have any profit, after just a little bit, the dog goes without, the kid goes without. And especially if you continue to take pluses and minuses. So everything coming out of that spreadsheet does make a difference, regardless if they pay for it. Yes, it's allocated in the pay, and yes, you got to take that negative out. Now you've got to try to make it the most effective.
And that's also going into the part where where the amateurs are like, well, he's kind of being mean about it when I asked him how he shot. I shot four, or he said he shot 14 up, but that's a really good score. Well, yeah, it's a good score for a certain class, but at the same time, it's not a good score for us.
Yeah.
We are at a level that we have to perform to put food on our table for put food on the table.
Yeah.
Long story short. So, we're not being mean. We're not being uh, a butthead about it when we're saying, when we're mad about it, or if there's a time where we were dismissive because we're trying to go fix something. We're we're not mean. And a lot, honestly, a lot of we get a kind of a bad rep of that. It's not because other people put a bad rep on us professionals. It's just there's days where we have a bad day, and sometimes it comes out the wrong way when you ask them. And so it's not because we don't want to talk to you or anything. It's just we have a job to go figure out and fix, or we won't have a job anymore.
In the
Or
same sunlight
or
that you've
I
got, the
won't.
sun's going down.
Yeah, the world still goes, or the Earth still rotates. The sun will come up the next morning. All of that, but I got to make the most of it of what I can do. If I'm out of it to make shoot off, well, I need to at least make top 10 to get a decent paycheck. It's like golf, like PGA. You want to make the cut to make money.
Yeah. Great insights. This is a type of a conversation that a lot of folks want to get on a podcast and just talk about bows, arrows, and the shoot off. This is really insightful, and hopefully it'll bring out a lot to the amateurs, and honestly might strive them to want to be the pro or to understand what's actually expected. I think that's a biggest part. Is it's not that you get to sign up as a pro and pay that big deal, but there's other things that go with it.
Yes, there's so much more than just shooting a bow. There's so much more that there has to be done, and a certain persona that you have to have at these shoots that people don't realize. Like, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to down anybody who wants to be a professional archer. Like, if you want to be a professional archer, by all means, embed it in your head and do it. But you also got to understand there's so much more to it that you got to be careful for, and you got to watch out, and you got to do. Because if you, there's certain amount of professionalism that you have, even, and honestly, what I've always gone by, a lot of these companies love people who have the most professionalism for the company. Because whether you can win a whole crap ton, but you have a terrible professionalism and personality, and you're not, you know, um, you don't care for the amateurs to meet them and do stuff like that. So there's a lot of misconception. Say hi. There's a lot of misconception of people who are, oh, a lot of these pros, they're buttheads. They're not nice. You know, no, it's not that we're not nice. It's just we have a job to do, and that's why I also wanted to get on this podcast as well and kind of give my side of what it is to and what it takes to be what it truly takes to be a professional, because on the outside it looks great, but on the inside there's a whole lot more. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying there's a whole lot more that goes into it.
And yes, you're thankful that you get to shoot a bow. And that you're thankful that you get that. Let's be real. It's part-time, full-time, whatever the job is. But gosh, it's still a commitment, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's a big commitment that you have to have, and
we love the commitment right there. That's what you're doing it for.
Well, and that's the thing. I have a family, and family means everything to me. And to still have to be a father or a husband and still be committed to this sport, I think should tell a lot of people what we really go through. Not just me personally, but for other guys as well. You know, it's such a big commitment that you have to. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tear that goes into this sport, literally.
Yeah.
I think we kind of saw that when after the dust settled at Foley and they started to interview you. Man, there was not a dry eye in the house when you got ready to start thanking your family, and just seeing you get over the hump like that. Like, I'd never met you, and I'm so happy for you just seeing the indoor season you were coming off of. Because, I mean, yeah, Bodie and Matthias, I've never seen him at an ASA, and I'm just like, this guy's right there. He's right there. And then to see it actually happen, for the first time at 60 yards, it's just, what goes into it, and what it means to not only you, but your family and the work you put into it. So that's just, archery
and honest,
family.
Yeah, and honestly, you just talking about it just gave me goosebumps. That's how much it means to me. And I don't wish it, but I mean, if you want to show emotions, or if you're a guy that doesn't show emotions, that's all. By all means, you do you. But you know, what really inspired me is when Levi started showing a lot more emotions in his shoot offs. Him being pumped when he hits a 14. That's the kind of emotions that want this sport to show, because it's not just shooting a bow. There's so much. Like I said, it's not. Like I said, it's not just shooting a bow. There's so much more that goes into it. That behind the scenes, it means so much to us. And I'm not saying too that the guys that don't show emotion, it doesn't mean as much to them. I'm not saying that at all. It still means a lot to them. It's just they just don't show emotions, and showing emotions, I think, true, and that's why I'm trying to voice my side is like of me showing a lot of emotions, because when I won Fort Benning the first time, And I, that interview was terrible. That after the Cam media interview, it was terrible. I just had nothing to say. But that's how I feel. That's how I truly. That's my emotions about it. There's nothing I can say to express of how I feel. You know, and the emotions I think is what. And I was honestly surprised in a way of how a lot of people um, they enjoyed seeing the emotions. I've had so many people message me personally. They're like, "Holy crap, dude! I love the emotion. Like that was amazing," and and that's it. Kind of gave me like a perspective, like, wow, a lot of people don't really show emotions. When they do win, when
Yeah.
rowdy, it means a lot to them.
It's got a lot of personalities in archery, and you see it out there on the trail when you're in your group of 4, 5, 6 people. But the viewers, the spectators, they don't get to see it, and I think that's what grows the sport as much as seeing them drill a 14 at 59.5 yards. I mean, yeah, they don't understand the time that went into it, but you see the 30-second to 60-second clip afterwards, and that's what draws people in. They're like, they see your people there. That's like, oh wow, that means so much to him. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
amazing.
Yeah, and like I said, family means everything to me. To be able to express my emotions about my family means a lot to me.
So for the next one, you talk about your different game plans. It worked in that environment, that setting. This next one you're headed to, what game plan? Are you going to go with A, B, or C?
All of them, all the way to Z, all of them. I want all of them to work now. But yeah, right now, and it's more just being flexible with your game plan too. It might you're on game plan A. It's just you got to incorporate game plan B into A. You got to be flexible on your game plan of what's happening, what your setup is wanting to do. What how your body is wanting to hold the bow. It and it's hard to make a game plan now. Like right now, I'm just making changes. I'm trying to do things that will help me and make the setup better for when I get down there. But the game plan really starts when I get down there, when I'm actually shooting on the practice course. That's when the game plan actually starts for me of what I'm actually going to do.
And yeah, like you'd said, that you didn't think you had such a great score because last year you knew the threshold was at the 30, 32. Um, well, that's because you're also aware of all of you guys, all of you.
Exactly.
You know what the capabilities are. And let's be real, one or two tournaments into this, it's going to be right back up there.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people don't realize is the scores are going to get back up there.
Yeah.
Once these guys, or once all of us, excuse me, once all of us figure it out, you're going to be thinking we're back to 50.
Yeah.
I want to know
So
why they decided 60 and skipped over 55. We could have split the difference at 55 and been just all good, but had to throw another 10 at it.
well, and I was so how I really feel about why we went back to 60. It, I, to me, I don't care. Like I'm just going to do my job regardless if it's at 50 or 60. I still have a job to do. I still got to go perform. So it doesn't really matter to me on the distance because everybody else has to do the same thing. Everybody else has to go through it the same way I do. And your top shooters are still going to be top shooters. The only thing is, it's going back to 60. It's really going to separate from your top shooters to the guys who really shouldn't be in that class. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a bad day, but there's guys in there that they're in the class because they got the VIP card to go park in VIP, so they don't have to walk.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can say that they can call themselves a pro because they have a pro VIP card. I mean, again, you want to be real. That's the truth. I mean, I'll just tell you flat out. There's guys in there that shouldn't be in there. I mean, I'm calling a spade a spade.
You're not saying nothing that everybody else isn't thinking.
No. I'm just saying exactly. I'm just saying what everybody else is thinking. And I feel like that has to be more voiced because I had people tell me, well, they're paying for your check. Well, at the same point, ASA is not paying my check. Mathews is paying my check. Mathews is what pays me the 10 grand, like the 10 grand bonus I get from the check, the big check. That's the company that pays me, not ASA. If we really look at it, there's like between how many people are there's only really a $200-300 difference. There's only really $200-300 difference, and honestly, it's not really that big of a difference to change anything. You know what I mean? The only thing that makes a difference is the sponsors that pay continuously. That's who pays my check. Now, I'm not saying ASA is doing a terrible job of paying their shooters. Like that, I'm not saying that. You gotta. It's an organization that still has to make money, and they have workers that they gotta pay and put. The workers gotta put food on their table. Like, I understand that it's a business. Everything is a business, and again, I'm not saying ASA is doing a bad job of paying their shooters.
No.
I'm just saying that one or two shooters who shouldn't be there, it's not going to affect my pay stub.
Yeah. Well, Neil, you got anything? We need to get a complete equipment rundown.
So, Mathews Title 38 Gen 2 set at 32 inches. I did some rigging and stretching to it. 60 pounds. Super Drive 23s. Cut down. I have it cut down to 29.5 right now. 120 grains up front with 3 Fletch 2.25 drivers, stack bangs. Hamsky Trinity Pro with the overdraw. True ball and Excel, Excel scopes, Excel stabilizers, and weights, true ball release, Hamsky peep. Hamsky peep. Hold on real quick. Hamsky peep, clear target lens, Striver gear, vinyl harness, Vortex, rangefinder, binos. I can't really think of anything else. Kafari quiver. I love Kafari stuff. I'm hopefully be working with them to bring out some cool stuff for the archery world too, as far as being able to carry equipment around easier for us too. I think that'd be pretty cool.
What kind of social medias you got?
I got Instagram, Facebook, and then I'll be starting a YouTube here soon. I think a lot of people would like to see that. And I like to do a lot of like the analytics and data of equipment as well. I think that would be pretty cool to do.
Yep.
Sounds fantastic. Well, good luck at Fort Benning. Good luck doing the marketing for the Bass and Bucks. I know they put on a fantastic tournament up there for all you skinny arrow shooters.
Yeah. And I just want to do a shout out real quick. Thank you to Gas and Lancaster for sponsoring. That was huge for us, and can't wait to see how the shoot goes. But also, are you guys still calling at Fort Benning, or is it going to be Fort Moore?
Dave's never been, and I'm not going to it this year. We've got a local qualifier that's I think it's their second ASA ever. So we had a bunch of new clubs, and I kind of got to be on site for that at the state level. But I'll be at Minden, Metropolis, and the Classic for sure. So we'll have to get together, grab a burger, tell some war stories, maybe figure out. I say I need to get you with Dave. Y'all got about the same draw length. So
actually, when he said 32, I'm sitting there going, "Yeah, I'm down to 32 also." So
Dave's had his new Title 40 for about 3 or 4 weeks now. I said, I know just the guy you need to talk to.
Yeah. Honestly, if you have any questions, if you need anything, if you need help, please text me.
All right.
You guys are more than welcome.
Well, man, we appreciate you sitting down with us. It's been a heck of a year for you so far. I hope you keep all that momentum going and just get comfy up there on the podium because you've been there.
I'm gonna try to. That's the goal.
Cool. Well, all right, Dane, we appreciate your time very much. We know there's a lot going on, and hope to see you at the next one.
I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys having me on.
You bet.